final speaker is Rosemary Jenks. Ms. Jenks is Director of Government Relations for NumbersUSA. She has worked on immigration issues since 1990.
The Ombudsman, the Citizenship and Immigration Services Ombudsman, released their 2007 report on USCIS, and it is 150 pages of damning indictment of the agency. Everything you can imagine that could go wrong in this agency has and is going wrong. They are unable to do background checks properly. They are unable to issue the employment-based green cards properly. They're not even getting customer service right, and that's their focus. They have been completely unable to revise their IT system. Their systems are open to manipulation. There is evidence that their entire database has been manipulated by people outside the United States. There is so much going wrong with this agency that the director, Emilio Gonzalez of USCIS, stated during his confirmation hearing that there is no way that USCIS could handle an amnesty, a guest worker program. He, of course, didn't use the word amnesty. 6 months later, nothing had changed, and yet all of a sudden, he's telling people, sure, we can do it. We'll just contract out the work. He recently admitted that he was completely unaware of some of the provisions in the Senate bill, and when told about them said, wait, that's in there? Well, I have a problem with that. That would be a real problem. Did he tell anyone? No. So who are the people? We know that the agency can't do its current job. We know, for example, that in 2005, in 2006, of the 7.5 million applications they ended up processing, because of course they've been doing backlog elimination, and they have not, by the way, eliminated the backlog. As the Ombudsman report points out, they just changed the definition of backlog to wish it away. So of the 7.5 million applications they processed, they denied about 20,000 of them for fraud. They had another 800,000 applications that adjudicators believed contained fraud. But they weren't denied for fraud because it takes too long to deny them for fraud, because you have to actually show the fraud. Well, if an application is denied for some reason other than fraud, the applicant can turn right back around and apply again. So they just keep applying until they find an adjudicator who's not going to bother denying the application, because, as was pointed out earlier, it takes a lot longer to deny than to approve. The entire system is rigged to approve applications. You have to get a supervisor's signature to deny an application. You don't if you approve it. It goes right through the pipeline. So who would be getting this amnesty? Well, we know that the Senate already voted to allow absconders, people who have been ordered by a court, who have gone through the entire system and been ordered by a court to leave the country but haven't. They would be entitled to amnesty under the law. Now, this is assuming that the law is actually enforced. We know that anyone who has committed fewer than 3 misdemeanors would be eligible. So you can beat your wife twice, but not 3 times, and still get amnesty. The president has made a huge deal about the war on terrorism, and yet the United States is open. It is wide open, not just to terrorists who want to sneak across the border. And that, of course, is being done. I mean, we know established routes from Iraq, for example, through Greece to Mexico City, and they meet their smugglers in Mexico City. It's all prearranged, and they're smuggled right up into the United States. But if they can come in legally, they can actually enter the country legally. This bill does nothing to change that except overload the agency that would be required to do the background checks on them. And it's not just the amnesty that's going to overload USCIS. We're going to at least double legal immigration under this bill. At least double. The family chain migration, the claim is that this ends family chain migration. Well, first of all, it doesn't. Even after the backlog is cleared out, and the backlog is around probably 3 million applications, which is about 5 to 6 million applicants, family members would still get extra points under this merit system just for being a relative of someone in the United States. So it doesn't end chain migration. But in the first decade or two, legal immigration will dramatically increase as we clean out this backlog. And so an agency that is, and I would say already sunk, not just sinking, is going to be at least have its workload tripled, at a minimum tripled. And we're expecting them to do a background check in 24 hours to ensure our lives. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, and especially for all of us who live in Washington, D.C. You know, target number one, and our lives, these people are considering now. Of course, they've all got the emergency evacuation plans, and if DHS is in charge of those too, so if they think they're getting out, they've got another thing coming. But at least they have a plan out there, theoretically. It's our lives that they are gambling on this bill. And for them to claim now, as Chris mentioned, they're now starting this new thing about this is a national security bill. And we've been hearing all along this bill will bring people out of the shadows. The shadows? There are shadows? I didn't see shadows when illegal aliens were marching down the streets. It's absurd. It's a ridiculous claim that this is a national security bill. This will do nothing but improve the chances of any terrorist organization that wants to attack the United States. We know there are terrorists in the United States now, and we're proposing to give them amnesty. That is what this bill is about. And anyone who tells you differently is lying to you. I mean, the Senate is perfectly well aware of the fact that there are terrorists in this country. It is perfectly well aware of the fact that USCIS cannot handle this workload, can't handle its current workload. The Ombudsman report that came out actually focuses on the background checks. There's a backlog, a growing backlog of over 300,000 FBI background checks. These are required of every person who applies for permanent residence or citizenship, which would be every amnesty applicant. So there's a backlog that in many cases is taking more than 6 months to get a single case through, and we're going to do this in 24 hours. You know, what world are they living in? It is just astonishing, the denial that this bill is based on. So, you know, I would just urge people to continue to contact their members of the Senate. And I have to say, it has been, in my view, it's been a beautiful process, actually watching democracy in this country. The American people have woken up on the immigration issue and made their voices heard, and that is why the bill was killed the first time. And isn't it amazing that we have to kill a bill more than once? But
it's a Freddy Krueger bill.
Yes. Nightmare on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Exactly.
But, you know, I believe that we will stop this bill again. I believe the American people will stop this bill, thankfully. And what a great show that democracy still works in this country, and please God that will continue. But we need to stop this bill because it will put all of our lives at more risk than they are now. And I'll leave it at that. Happy note.